You can be wiser as an educated advisor. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, steps 10, 11, and 12, part 5 in our series on the 12-step process to building long-term relationships with Bob Lochard, Chief Marketing Officer of Gordon Marketing. So let's get down to business. Welcome to the 5th segment, Bob.
Thank you.
We're talking about, I like this first subject of it, and we got a lot to cover in our seg. Brainstorming. I mean, I want every idea out on the table. I know half of mine are going to be stupid and insane, but I'm putting them out there because some other person may be able to convert that silly idea into an actual strategy. Talk about why this is so important in our business.
Well, the only dumb idea is the one not shared. And so we all like to be heard. From employee to friends to relatives, whatever it is that you're dealing, we like to be heard. We like to share our ideas. I may not use your idea today, but I may need it 2 years from now. And there's strength in numbers. My father-in-law said 2 heads are better than one, and 3 is just outstanding. And so why not brainstorm with the people that's in your industry where you're at? Maybe they've gone through what you've gone through, and they have some wisdom they can share with you.
One of the last lockdown sessions I was in that had these kind of brainstorming is I think we had about 107 ideas. Almost all of them were terrible, but 6 of them were worth pursuing, which we did. Now, when we're talking about brainstorming, we're leaving a lot of time. The last lockdown I was 3 hours. We recorded everything just so because we couldn't keep our mind around it all. When you're doing this, you're looking to do new issues in 2020, in 2021, 2022. You're brainstorming for the future based on your present and current numbers. How much brainstorming, like you do as a chief marketing officer, how much do you do?
I try to do a little bit every week. I have a rigid routine that I follow, and I won't bore everybody with that now, but I do a little bit in the morning that's for myself, and somewhere in the afternoon I always schedule about 30 minutes where I'll just make a call out of the blue to somebody, depending upon whatever the topic is of the week or whatever the challenge is, and I'm looking for somebody else's take, somebody else's viewpoint. Sometimes if I don't have time to do it by phone, I have a select few that I'll send an email out with, hey, I'm looking for some ideas on this, would you be able to bounce them back? So I pretty much do it on a weekly basis. I formally do it every couple months if on larger topics.
Well, when I'm thinking about brainstorming and things like this, I need a sounding board. And I need to see if my idea has any value to it besides what I think it is valuable. Serving is building. You know, when I think of serving, I mean, our whole business is service. I mean, I say that, and then, what's the complaint of clients? We don't service them. We don't contact them. There's no annual review. So when I'm talking about it, great recruiters learned a long time ago that service is the norm of our business. When you're talking about service, and you're a marketing, you're a marketing officer, but bottom line, you're the chief service manager of your organization. Talk a little bit about that.
Be different. Go the extra mile. What can I do that makes me stand out? Service covers a lot of areas. So whether you're a recruiter or you're in sales or you have a team that you manage, it all comes down to the same thing, and that is service. And it's what can I do that's going to really impress you that I care? And really that's what it boils down to, that you're more than a number, you're more than an employee, you're somebody that I care about, and that's building that relationship again.
When I think about the menu of service and you had to make a statement, if you had to just make it in a single statement of service, what is it for you? Is it education? Is it help? Is it inspiration? Is it motivation? You talk about a lot of things here. Is it expertise? What's the big one, though?
Well, I can start with my wife of 40 years. Her expertise is that of helps. If she can provide help, be involved to make someone just day is better, that just excites her. I love to educate. I love to teach. I've often been asked, why'd I give up my agency? I could go back and make, quote unquote, so much more money. Money's not everything. It doesn't hurt.
No.
But I love to see people go from point A to point Z in their relationship of life. And so taking that individual like myself, who was paralyzed, down, out, had nothing, and helping them through the process. So I would say mine is I love to educate.
Somebody helped you during that time, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Well, there's the reciprocity.
Yep.
When we're talking about content creation, speaking, workshops, events, we're trying to not pontificate in these events. We're trying to actually impart real knowledge and skill set. When I hear you speak, that's what I hear. I don't hear, hey, I'm just trying to get this out. You're lucky to even hear me, right?
Right.
I actually hear, I'm trying to impart. Well, let's get into some of the issues here on step 4, asking for help. There's 4 fears that you talk about. I don't know if they're warranted or not, but let's just go into them, right?
Okay.
And say, fear of admitting we're out of control. I don't know in my 36 years in this business, too many guys that are coming and say, Steve, I need to talk to you, have a personal time. I am really out of control.
This is the roadblock to all relationships, is if you're not willing to seek help, seek counsel, seek guidance, ask for a rescue, so to speak, you're never going to get past the challenge of building these type of relationships. This is one of the reasons. We don't want people to think, well, if I ask you how to do this, I'm out of control, I don't know what I'm doing, because we see that as a sign of weakness.
It's tough coming from your background, military, police officer. You have a lot of, an image to maintain. But in your thinking, these are things that can be actually counterproductive.
Yeah.
Talk about fear of owing a favor. Boy, I tell you what, people do not want IOUs. If they perceive it, they don't want any part of it.
Yeah, we're afraid to ask because, hey, if I ask Steve to help me with this, what's Steve going to ask me back in return?
Right.
There again, that's because we're afraid. We fear vulnerability, and that part of being authentic is just this. So, well, I'm just not going to ask because I don't know if I can help Steve if he or she were to ask back. And so, yeah, we're afraid. Out of fear of owing a favor, we don't ask.
How about the equal favor? You might have done something really huge for a person, and he doesn't have anything in return.
We put a balance and a scale, and there shouldn't be one.
Right.
So,
well, let's talk about number 3, fear of appearing weak. Now, you talked about this, but I'm sorry, it's difficult. Everybody likes strong, confident people, right? Male or female, it doesn't matter. Sometimes, though, as you talked earlier in the series, vulnerability can win the day. When we're all showing humanness, I think that's the entry into other people's lives.
yeah, and only because I didn't get his permission, I won't mention his name, but my mentor in this business, we always referenced him. If you were to ask 100 people, define him. We called him the gentleman's gentleman. Always went the extra mile, vulnerable, real, true, yet strong, had a great personality, great businessman, made great decisions. So I learned a lot from that. He wasn't afraid to ask for help, and yet he was at the top of the echelon. And that meant asking the person that was the entry level to the mid-level. He had no fear that was going to damage who he was. And he saw it as the opposite. It gave him an opportunity to grow. And so we do have fear that we're going to appear weak or incompetent by asking the silly question. And the only silly question is the one you don't ask. So.
The 4th one, and this is a big one. We've been in sales. I've been in sales for a lot of my career. I try not to take rejection personally. He didn't buy it from me. He bought it from somebody else. I thought the other person wasn't really up to the speed, and I lost it on nepotism, or I lost it because his product seemed to be better than mine, or whatever the issues are. But fear of rejection, people have been burned before, and it's tough to come back from it. Talk about it.
Well, first of all, if you ask for help, don't ask with a preconceived notion of what the answer is going to be. And so we don't ask because absolutely we're afraid that if I ask, you're going to tell me what I don't want to hear. So oftentimes individuals will ask looking to have their side of the story shored up and having my back, so to speak. So it's safer for some to not ask because maybe you will reject me, and I have to be willing to take both. And maybe it was good for me. The other one, as I put, is, I asked you once and you burned me. You went out and told somebody what I told you not to say.
Right.
I'm not willing to do that again. But I can't control what you do. I can only control what I do, and that's where I'd leave it at.
Well, these 4 fears are basic deal killers in our relationships with other people. So these things we want to manage, and I have no problem looking at this and saying, it's not personal rejection, I just didn't buy your idea. You're a good guy. I don't mind you showing vulnerability and being weakness. I'm all over that. I have no problem fear of appearing a bit weak, that's okay with me. So I'm looking at admitting that I have problems. I'm out of control. I don't know what I'm doing here. And sometimes I need just somebody to say, that is all unnecessary activity. You just need to really bring it down. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed this series on the 12-step process in building long-term relationships with Bob Lochard, Chief Marketing Officer of Gordon Marketing. And to keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, and compliance officer. And if you need a little bit of counseling time with Bob, he's open to it. And remember to watch my consumer show, Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game, where you can get daily content posted on your website, on your social media accounts, and your database distribution. I'm Steve Savant. Thanks for watching.